Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. If you guys missed last week's episode, it's a real big crucial part of this, so you have to go back and listen to it. We talk about the Barney and Betty Hill incident that happened in Portsmouth, New Hampshire in the 1960s. And since y'all have been sleeping on these episodes, you missed our new co-host.
Hey, what's up? I'm Natasha.
And you're too far away from the microphone.
I'm not.
Just kidding. You're not that far away from the microphone. Okay, just sit there and fucking blindly stare at me. You're supposed to talk with me. We're supposed to conversate here. This is a part of this.
That's what we do?
Oh my god. This is wild. I need a new co-host, y'all, so we're filling out applications here.
Don't let him lie to you. There's no applications.
I'll put an application out right now. I'll put it on the Facebook page. Try me.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. We gotta get back on track. So, now, doing all this research and everything, there is literally, like, zero aliens in fucking New Hampshire. Or everybody's just too scared to say anything about them. But what I did read, I came upon this thing called Project Bluebeam, which is wild. It's literally the government projecting holograms up into the sky. Now, the whole thing is they're gonna, like, project an alien fight. And then that's how they're going to introduce... No, this is... Don't look at me like that.
Why?
Because, so what's gonna happen is, like, they're gonna project this big fight between two groups of aliens, and that's how they're gonna introduce aliens into our people. Like, you know, they're gonna be like, oh, these are the aliens that saved us from whatever.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Well, it's a big documentary on it. I stumbled upon all this stuff. But, I mean, come on. You're telling me out of the millions and millions and millions and millions of miles of space, there's nothing out there.
Oh, I believe it, but with the government projecting shit, that's just stupid.
Why wouldn't they? How? So you're telling me right now, if they were just like, yeah, there's aliens. Well, I mean, they kind of did that with the CIA thing. They released the documents. But if they tomorrow, an alien went on to the news and talked to the president, was like, yo, what's up? We're here. You're not gonna freak out?
No.
You're not gonna freak out the littlest bit.
No, but I'm just weird.
98.8% of the population is going to have a fucking aneurysm about that.
Okay, well, I'm not that 1%.
So, but, alright, let's get back on subject. So, the things that I did find were like little diary snippets. And the first documented UFO was in 1639. And it was in Massachusetts Bay Colony co-founder and governor John Winthrop. Which I feel like we've read about him, like, in school.
We definitely
Who the fuck was he? I'm gonna have to do some, like, deep digging on that. Cause,
maybe
like,
we should
that
just do
name
an
sounds
episode on
wicked.
John Winthrop.
No, because it's not spooky. Alright, but
Maybe it
he
is.
recorded a secondhand observation of unidentified objects in the sky over Boston. In his diary entry of March 1st that year, Winthrop wrote that a sober, discreet man, meaning this dude was a pussy, right? You know.
Discreet, huh?
Yeah, real discreet.
Oh, yeah. He was so discreet.
His name was James Everell, and he was rowing a boat up the muddy river at night when he saw a great light in the sky. Now, this is like in the... What are you laughing for? This is the 1600s. What light is going to be in the sky? There's no, like, planes at this... I don't think there were planes in the 1600s.
Weren't there satellites?
No, it's the 1600s!
I don't know.
They didn't even have electricity. I don't think. Damn, now I gotta know when to electricity. Man, we sound stupid.
I know I do.
Alright, so he wrote that it was about 3 yards square, which, if you know your math, that's 9 feet.
I don't know my math.
And it was contracted in the figure of a swine, so it looked like a pig in the sky. Oh, I get it. So almost like a, like the flying saucer shape. Kind of looks like a pig when you really think about it. And it was heading up towards Charlestown, which is up the river about 2 or 3 hours. By the time the lights moved away, Everell and his boatmates had been delivered 1 mile upstream, and they had no memory of how they were brought upstream.
Weren't they paddling a boat?
Well, they were paddling, but this was all over the course of like 10 seconds that they saw it, and it was gone.
Are you sure they just weren't hallucinating?
Who knows? I mean, we don't know what was going on back then.
So they could have taken some magic mushrooms.
It's the 1600s.
Okay, well, you can't tell me mushrooms weren't growing back then.
Mushrooms were growing back then, but...
Okay, and if you ate
once
one...
again, Did you not hear sober, discreet man? So this guy was sober. He didn't do drugs. He didn't drink alcohol. Nothing. He was sober.
What if he didn't know he drank it and put it in his tea?
That doesn't... No, he was a sober man.
You never know.
So, now, the next documented case was about 200 years later. And it was from Cynthia Everett. Which wasn't the last guy's name Everett, too? Everett, not Everett. Seems like we have a common last name here. They must be crazy.
I think we found it. Jackpot.
So, she was 24, and she was also from Massachusetts. And she was working as a school teacher in Camden, Maine in 1808. That's a fucking haul. Massachusetts to Maine. That's like... Back then, too, they didn't have cars. They didn't have cars in the 1800s.
Yeah,
they had, like, horse and buggy. I mean, I guess it's kind of the same thing. Horsepower. So, she recorded in her diary a similar account. On July 22nd, at about 10 o'clock at night, she saw a very strange appearance. It was a light which proceeded from the east. At first sight, she thought it was a meteor, but from its motion, she soon perceived it was not. It seemed to dart as first quickly as light and appeared to be in the atmosphere, but lowered toward the ground and kept on equal distance, sometimes ascending and sometimes descending. Well, that's... Yeah, see, it's like I can't even explain any of these. Like, I don't have a logical explanation for that. The first one could have been a meteor. And then they could have just been so, like, dumbfounded by the meteor, this shit could have been carrying them downriver pretty fast. That I don't have an explanation for.
No.
So, this next one's actually pretty cool. So, this happened, like, way close to the Barney Hill incident. So, it could have been similar, because they were on their way back from a trip in Canada. I think they went through, or not Canada, New York. They went to go see the waterfall, Niagara Falls.
Niagara Falls.
They were coming back from Niagara Falls. That's when this happened. So the Cold War is 1960s, right? Yeah. So yeah. Well, yeah, that makes sense because the Eastern Mountain Radar Base was during the Cold War. All right, so this was the Eastern Mountain Base incident. The U.S. Air Force maintained a radar base in Vermont's 3,438-foot East Mountain, named the North Concord Air Force Station, which doesn't make sense because Concord is in New Hampshire.
There's Concords everywhere.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, there's a Concord, Mass. too.
Mm.
This remote facility started operating in 1956. At the height of its operation, about 175 men worked at the station. They lived in a little Quonset hut village, complete with a store, bowling alley, and a theater. That sounds awesome. And it was about a mile down the mountain. In 1961, according to military reports, a strange object appeared in the skies above the East Mountain and remained visible for about 18 minutes. Given that the events involving Betty and Barney Hill happened just a short time later, some assume that was the same UFO.
But
and
how
then,
can they assume it's the same UFO if
Well, why
there's
wouldn't
other
they?
people out there?
Yeah, well,
There's other things out there. It could have been a different group.
could have been. But nobody saw these aliens like Betty and Barney Hill. They physically saw the aliens. They were abducted. These are just sightings of UFOs.
Right,
Betty and Barney
exactly.
Hill was really like the only abduction story that I could find in New England. The only one. Which is wild. I mean, maybe people just don't want to say it out loud. I wouldn't.
You'd sound crazy.
Yeah.
Like you need to be
And that's
put
what
in
they
a
want.
nut
They want
house.
you to sound crazy.
But we can't be the only life out there.
We could. We definitely could.
There are so many galaxies and shit out there.
Galaxies. Yeah, we're literally like a pinpoint in that big circly, swirly thing. Whatever that's. You know what I'm talking about. The
Yeah, I know
swirl.
what you're talking about. The swirl.
Yeah.
The swirly.
Alright, so I actually kind of want to. So, this is for the illegitimate grandpa group. If y'all listen to this, you need to go out to Vermont and check that abandoned town out. Make sure there's a store, bowling alley, a theater. I want to see some videos on this because that's wild. Absolutely wild. And that's definitely a good look. It could be haunted too.
Could be.
Could be. Definitely. Cold War base, 1960s. People definitely died up there. Maybe.
Died of sickness, died of
That's the
being
1960s.
shot, everything.
I don't think there was a war up there. I think they were just like observing. But
Yeah,
that brings back to something that Sean told me the other night. So my buddy Sean was telling me when I was looking through all this alien stuff, he was talking about how there was a radar. There's only one like radar base. It's up here in New Boston, I think it is, and
Okay.
they track all the planes in and out of like the United States. They're all flying objects, and then there's another one on the East Coast in, like, California, I think he was saying. So maybe this is, like, that radar base. Maybe he got, like, New Boston or New London or whatever he's talking. Maybe he got it mixed up with this one, because that sounds right. But who knows? So that brings us to our next one, which was also in the 1960s. So this could all be the same alien group. They could all just be like, they could have just been like, yo, what's going on? 60s was a good time, United States, you know? Isn't that when Woodstock happened? Alien, yeah, that's where it was.
I
think
remember because I was there.
Well, we weren't born, but I'm pretty sure Woodstock was in, like, the 1960s. Maybe the aliens were coming from Woodstock, and they were like, wait, people are gonna just think we're, like, they're tripped out.
Yeah, good.
Could be.
If they're really that smart.
Hey, well, I mean, they have to be. They don't wear clothes.
So they're nudists.
They don't have genitals.
How do you know? Have you seen one?
No, but several reports say that they don't have junk in the trunk.
Well, maybe they were only females.
Well, there was no slit either. I wonder. Well, it could be like Scary Movie. They pee out of their finger.
No.
Cool.
No, gross.
All right. So the next incident happened in Exeter in 1965, September 3rd, and it was one of the most famous UFO events of all time, besides Betty and Barney Hill. So this one was also turned into a bestseller by John G. Fuller called "Incident at Exeter." Fuller reports that a policeman patrolling Route 101 just after midnight stopped to check on a woman parked beside the road. The breathless woman claimed that a flying object with red flashlights had been chasing her. A few hours later, an 18-year-old man arrived at the Exeter police station and claimed that while hitchhiking along Route 150, he'd seen a line of 5 bright lights over a house about 100 feet from where he stood. He said the lights moved over a large field and disappeared and reappeared behind the tree line several times. After driving to the site with the young man, the policeman witnessed the lights, as did another officer who arrived a short time later. Over the weeks that followed, authorities received about 60 reports of UFO sightings near Exeter. Debunkers have claimed that described light pattern could match those of an Air Force KC-97 refueling plane, but officially the Exeter sightings remain a mystery. That's bullshit. See, everybody's always got to chalk it up to something.
It could have been, though. You don't know that.
It could have been. Alright, so the next closest one is the Allagash abductions of 1976. In August 1976, according to their own accounts, 4 Massachusetts college students, well, that's where we went wrong, we have college students, canoeing on Maine's Allagash Wilderness Waterway and saw an unidentified object in the sky. They described the sighting to a ranger the next day, but weren't taken seriously. Well, obviously, they're 4 college students, camping out in the woods. It was suggested, in fact, that they had seen a searchlight that was being used to celebrate the grand opening of a hardware store in Millnocket. The students continued their trip and did not talk much about their encounter until years later, where one of them, Jim Weiner, started having seizures. Weiner claimed to have had visions of humanoid beings levitating above his bed, poking him with needles. Under hypnosis, all 4 men described small gray aliens, taking them aboard a spacecraft and performing medical examinations on them. The 1993 book, The Allagash Abduction, made momentary media darlings out of the quartet, who appeared on the Joanne Rivers Show and Unsolved Mysteries in 2016. However, one of the men, Charlie Rack, said although the group really did see unidentified flying objects twice during their canoe trip, the rest of the story has been made up. His former friends dispute this.
I mean,
Weird.
it does not sound like
So now,
it was an actual thing. It sounds like they were just looking for, like,
now I know
some
how this
Reddit
is going
or
to sound,
something.
because, it's like, I was a college student, and I'm not the most reputable source. But it was me and a couple people from the college, and I remember we were outside smoking cigarettes at the Butt Hut,
Yep.
in this big old triangle shape. It must have been like that dude said, 9 meters. It must have been probably way bigger up close. But it was a triangle, had 1 light in the tip, 1 light on the left side, and 1 right on the right on each point of the triangle, and it hovered in the sky for 10 minutes, just it looked like it was watching us. Wild as fuck.
Were you tripping?
No, I was not tripping.
Were
And then
you drunk?
no, I wasn't drunk. I wasn't high. I wasn't anything. I was literally just out there smoking a cigarette, and we all saw it. Every single one of us saw it. And
Did
then
you get them all
of a sudden, it just went gone.
Just like that, you heard that.
Just
noise,
too. It was like a much louder whoosh, but similar to that. Yeah. Well, it's like when you're outside here, even when you look up at the sky, you always see yeah, it could be a satellite, but sometimes things are moving way too fast to be a satellite up there.
Unless something's wrong with the satellite.
No, they don't move that fast.
Unless something moves it.
I mean, clearly we need to stay away from Massachusetts. Because that's where all of these alien sightings have been.
That's where everything in human nature has
well,
gone
down.
I mean,
what else do we have in Massachusetts? We have Lizzie Borden. We have all these alien abductions, the Salem witch trials.
We have everything going on down in Mass. It's just not it doesn't sound like a
we
safe
definitely
place
need to
at
move
this
to
point.
Salem, Massachusetts.
I definitely agree.
I'd be all about that.
I agree.
And I want to move into a
pretty
house
fucking cool.
where there's a witch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good
All
witch
right.
or a bad witch?
Both.
Okay.
Everything. I want like a Glenda the Good Witch. Well, see, now that we bring up witches, Glenda the Good Witch was a bad witch. See, you get me off track here. We're on aliens. Although this episode is literally one of my least favorites because it's been so hard to research. I have one more big UFO story, and I'll give you one guess where it started.
Where?
Massachusetts.
No.
So, this was a snippet that I grabbed from a big news article, and it starts, when numerous residents of Berkshire County, Massachusetts, individually reported having seen a UFO on September 1st, 1969. Wasn't that other one like 1967? September 1st? September 3rd, 1965. Is this the same time?
You just said 1969.
1969. So
it's
same date,
later.
different year, but same place. Alright, I lost my place. I gotta go back to this news snippet. Seen a UFO on September 1st, 1969. Authorities were at a loss for an explanation. This wasn't a lone sighting induced by sleep deprivation that could have been easily dismissed. It truly appeared as though something uncanny had occurred. The following is a story from Thomas Reed. On the evenings in question, residents spotted lights above the Sheffield in the southern Berkshire. Must be like a city.
It could be,
Or a town, or like a grouping of houses. Many of the witnesses said that the lights were fitted to an unidentified disc-shaped craft that was maneuvered unprecedented ways. Some witnesses claimed they lost track of time as they gazed with stunned fascination at the object. See, now that's like a common reoccurring theme, is losing time when you're looking at a spaceship or you've been abducted, or, like things move faster in the spaceship.
I don't know. These people kind of sound like they lost their noodle.
The way they're
saying things, though, it just sounds like they're crazy.
It does, but I mean, the crazy people are usually the ones that are right.
Yeah, you got that. You got a point.
So now, Thomas Reed, the guy who's reporting all this, at the time he was 9 years old. He was in the car with his mother, brother, and grandmother that night. The family noticed a group of glowing orbs dash out of the roadside trees. Reed claims that something astonishing happened when heading home. His family approached Sheffield Bridge. Yes, so Sheffield's definitely the town.
Mm-hmm.
He says, it came to a stop off the right side of the road. He recalled the glowing orbs. Everything got really calm. It was like being in the middle of a hurricane. There was like barometric change in pressure. How could he know there was a barometric change in pressure at 9 years old? I mean, people back then were definitely way smarter, though. And then it was dead silent.
I doubt he'd know.
And there was an eruption of crickets and frogs, and it got really loud, and that was it. Despite any tangible evidence of the Berkshire UFO incident, Reed had remained steadfast in his account. He said over time the family regained some memory of the incident, including having been in a hangar-like facility with other people. Now, I think Sean was telling me about this too yesterday. We were talking about a big thing that happened in Massachusetts where like a whole town got abducted, and I'm pretty sure this was the story. I wasn't 100%, but like, when we were talking about it, I told him, I was like, I'm definitely talking about a story that's similar to that.
Nice.
So Reed said, we encountered something. It was definitely not of this world. This hangar thing we were in was huge. It was larger than a football field. The hallway we had seen was circular with a Y configuration, almost to control the flow of traffic. This one room had a bow in the wall, and it was rounded. It's important to remember that Reed was only one of dozens of people who reported witnessing a UFO in the Sheffield area that night. Some were adults who called into local radio stations to report the sighting. Others were children who began drawing UFOs in class. That's wild. So there were more than 20 to 30 sketches that were drawn by children in a 4th grade class from what they saw. They hung underneath in a classroom board in Sheffield Center School. More than one of those hang in the Roswell Museum today. People don't realize the significance of that. And it wasn't just them.
Yeah, but children are more perceptive to things than adults are, so I can kind of believe that.
Yeah, so the kids saw it. So now, the radio station thing, that reminds me, this definitely isn't New England, but I remember in high school, now I don't know if it's fake or real or not or whatever, but some guy ended up calling into a radio station saying that he worked at Area 51, and that, that they were tracking him and all this, so he had to talk quick, and he was wicked panicky, and he said that there's no such thing as aliens. They're interdimensional beings, which means they travel from different plane, we're in the third dimension, because everything here is three-dimensional. 2D would be like playing Mario. Mario's in a 2D world.
Yeah.
So, we're in the third dimensional plane. He says that all these alien quote-unquote beings are fourth dimensional beings. So they're in the next dimension beyond our dimension. That's why they can pop in and out and not be noticed. They can come right in and out and all this. And as he's talking, all of a sudden, the radio station cut. He starts crying. He's like, "They found me. They know we're here. They know I'm here." I'm getting goosebumps talking about this. Because just remembering it, listen to it, because it was a big thing. It came onto I think it was YouTube, because that's all we used back in the day.
Yep.
It was YouTube, and it was just a radio snippet. There's no video, and then all of a sudden, he's like, "They found me. They're here." And then the radio, the call gets cut. And he's like, "Did we lose him?" And they're like, "No, we didn't lose him. The line was cut." So, somebody cut the satellite transmission from this guy to them, and that was the last that was heard of it.
I wonder what happened to the guy.
Yeah, I'll have to find it and post a link to it on our Facebook page so you guys know what I'm talking about for people that don't. So, your story is way cooler. It's literally, Men in Black. How did you come up with that?
Dun, dun.
Yeah, you basically took the theme and you were like, "Yeah, fuck aliens, there ain't shit around here." And you thought of the Men in Black, which was literally a great thought, because, could you imagine if there was actually real Men in Black? We're like the aliens in the post office.
Why couldn't
Maybe
they?
your grandma's an alien. She did work at the post office, and everybody in Men in Black was an alien. Alright.
Maybe she is. I'm gonna have to do something and see if I can get her to talk.
Yeah, exactly. Just start being beep blah 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 blah. Talk to her and then she does it back. I'd shit my pants. I'd never go to your grandma's for Sunday dinner ever again.
If she listens to this and does it on purpose.
Alright, so we're no.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
No.
We're gonna start with this now, huh?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely gonna interrupt you the whole time.
I know you are.
Because I'll forget, because I have wicked bad ADHD. So,
yes,
I need to say
that.
So, when I used to work at Dunkin' Donuts, this is all on your Men in Black thing. Two weird people, they were bald. They had suits on Men in Black. I know I'm bald. They had suits on like Men in Black. They came in, they ordered a black coffee, and then they kept asking what the little balls were. Who doesn't know what munchkins are?
Someone in Europe, maybe.
No,
they
they
don't have
definitely
Dunkins out there, do they?
I don't know if they have Dunks out there, but they definitely have coffee shops with Munchkins. Munchkins isn't like a Dunkin' Donuts thing. The term Munchkins is. They could have been like, "Oh, I want the donut holes."
Well, if they don't know what what Munchkins are here, because they only are called donut holes.
They could have been like,
there.
"I want the donut holes." They look the same. They're not like a different shape. They look exactly the same. They're little balls of donuts. They have those all over the world.
I don't know what to tell you. Then.
If we have any European listeners, you gotta let us know if you guys don't have Munchkins. But they didn't have a European accent. They were talking like they didn't speak. You know what I mean?
Maybe they were deaf.
No, not like that. They were talking in broken sentences almost. They were like, "Ooh, food good now." Not speaking like a caveman almost. Not putting together.
Maybe they came out of a cave.
No, they were weird. They were definitely weird. There's something wrong with them. And now the weird part is nobody witnessed me serve these two people. Okay? Nobody. There were 3 people working. Now this is at 5 a.m. when we opened the doors to the store.
Yeah,
5 a.m.
Mostly everybody's out back getting ready for the day.
Nope, we were all in line. They were working drive-thru. I was working front counter.
Maybe they weren't paying attention.
You worked at Dunkin' Donuts. You know when someone walks inside. They didn't know anybody came in. They're like, "Who are you talking to?" And I was like, "I just served 2 people." And they're like, "What do you mean nobody came in here?" So I bugged out the whole rest of the day, panicked, and then I completely backed this into the back of my mind. Yeah, this never happened. It's a lie.
I was just talking to myself.
Yeah, I was just talking to myself and, making some shit up. But I remember it like it happened. I mean, I could have made the whole thing up in my brain and, like, talked to myself, 5 a.m, lack of sleep. We had just had Cole. So, we had that, like, parent
we were up
sleep.
every night with him.
So, I mean, it could have just made something up. We could have watched Men in Black the night before and I could have been panicking.
I mean,
but,
we could have.
I'll let you, I'll try to go uninterrupted here. I'll let you read your story.
Oh,
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna try. All right, hold on. Let me get a. All right, go ahead.
You good?
I think so.
Okay. Well, those are several singular incidences where mine is the Men in Black, which everybody knows about. So, the Men in Black, with them, there have been several sightings. One of the most notorious was in 1976 at Old Orchard Beach. Dr. Herbert Hopkins is a 58-year-old doctor and hypnotist and was acting as a consultant on an alleged UFO teleportation case in Maine. One evening, when his wife and children had gone out, leaving him alone, the telephone rang, and a man identifying himself as the vice president of the New Jersey UFO Research Organization asked if he might visit Dr. Hopkins that evening to discuss certain details of the case.
You know how I said I wasn't going to interrupt you?
Yeah, I know.
So, quick thing. Mm-hmm. So, the lead singer of Blink-182 used to be really, really into UFOs and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody called him from that organization and basically told him, if you keep going down all these rabbit holes that you're going down, I'm going to kill you. So now, when he goes in interviews and people ask him, like, oh, you should be wicked into UFOs, he, like, completely gets all shut out and he's like, yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, so, but, no, go ahead. I mean, that happens all over the place. Like, that's notorious. Like, that whole...
Like I said?
Alright, whatever. That's fine. You know what? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're not. Let's see. Where was I?
Oh, lost your spot in your notes?
Yes, I did.
Sucks to be you.
Well, you decided to interrupt. Alright, so the doctor then agreed. At the time, it seemed like the natural thing to do. He went to the back door to switch on the light so that his visitor would be able to find his way from the parking lot. But while he was there, he noticed the man already climbing the porch steps. I saw no car, and even if he did have a car, he could not have possibly gotten to my house that quickly from any phone. Hopkins later commented in delayed astonishment. The doctor found himself acting out a character, allowing a person into his house while he was alone, despite a history of crime in the area, failing to inquire as to his name, but nevertheless listening without any fear at all. His dog reacted differently. As the man entered, the dog barked and uncharacteristically hid in the closet with his tail between his legs. He wore a white shirt and white gloves, but his trousers, jacket, tie, shoes, and derby were all black. He appeared not to fill out his sleeves or trousers. The crease on his pants remained razor sharp, even at the knees. When he sat down, as he took off his hat, it became apparent that he lacked both hair and eyebrows.
See? Look, like those people in the Duncans. Telling you.
You didn't mention that.
I said they didn't have hair. They were bald.
Okay, well, the eyebrows thing you didn't say.
Huh? I don't remember if they had eyebrows or not.
Well, maybe you should have been paying attention. His small nose and small ears were set low. His chin receded, and his face was deathly white, except for a vivid red gash of a mouth. In the course of their conversation, he happened to brush his lips with his gray suede gloves, and the doctor was astonished to see that his lips were smeared and that the gloves were stained with lipstick. It was only afterwards, however, that Dr. Hopkins reflected further on the strangeness of his visitor's appearance and behavior. Apparently satisfied with the information gathered from Hopkins, the MIB changed the subject. He informed Hopkins that there were 2 coins in Hopkins' pocket, which was correct. and asked him to remove one.
Ooh, shit.
Hopkins complied and held the coin, a shiny new penny, in the palm of his hand. The MIB told Hopkins to watch the coin closely. After a few moments, the coin took on a silvery appearance and then appeared to be going out of focus. It then began to fade and eventually disappeared altogether.
See? Now that brings me back to my point. Interdimensional beings. He phased the object out of this dimension and into another one.
I mean, very possible to study it. If there really is other dimensions other than the third.
See?
I mean...
Alright, that's probably not the last interruption. But.
I know it's not. The Men in Black informed Hopkins that the coin would never be seen on this plane again. He then inquired as to whether Hopkins was familiar with the alleged UFO abductee Barney Hill. Hopkins replied that he had heard of Hill, but was under the impression that he had died in the not-too-distant past. The Men in Black informed Hopkins that that was correct. Barney didn't have a heart, said the Men in Black, just like you no longer have a coin. It should be noted that Barney Hill actually died of a cerebral hemorrhage. The Man in Black then gently suggested that Hopkins destroy any material he had related to the Stevens case. Now, at this point, his speech started to slow. Rising slowly and unsteadily to his feet, he said very slowly, "My energy is running low. Must go now. Goodbye."
See? And the whole not speaking in full sentence, like, energy low, must go now. See what I mean? Like, that's how they were talking. Like, I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very interesting. Clinging to the railing, he climbed down the stairs, first one foot on a step, then bringing the other down next to it. Rather than going one foot after another like a healthy person, Dr. Hopkins saw a bright light shining up the driveway, brighter than an automobile headlight, and the bluish-white color in it, although no light had been present when he had arrived. Rushing to the kitchen window, the doctor looked out to watch him, but the light was gone. He ran out onto the front porch, but saw no car leaving. Not only that, but the stranger walked in the diametrically opposite direction to the way he had arrived. Not towards the driveway, but towards an impenetrable hedge. The doctor went out onto the front porch to watch for him, but he never turned up. Not surprisingly, he was so scared that he willingly complied with his visitor's instructions. Hopkins sat down at the kitchen table to digest what he had just experienced, but before doing so, he pulled his revolver out of his drawer just to be on the safe side. It didn't take him long to decide what he had to do. He went into the other room, gathered all the material from the Stevens case, demagnetized the tapes, cut them up into thousands of pieces, and then, for good measure, burned them along with some of the other documents related to the case. Subsequently, curious incidents continued to occur, both in Dr. Hopkins' household and in that of his eldest son. He presumed that there was some link with the extraordinary visit, but he never heard from his visitor again. As for the New Jersey UFO Research Organization, no such institution exists.
See, that's definitely strange, too, because it's like, there's so many instances of that organization talking to people and, like, basically scaring them into doing fucking whatever, like, hey, delete all your shit. Basically blackmail, like, hey, if you don't do this, we're gonna kill you.
Mm-hmm.
I made this penny disappear in front of you. Like, fuck off.
Well, I gotta say, if someone just made something disappear with a death threat behind it, everything I was looking into would be gone.
Oh, yeah, that's
there's
it.
no question.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't care anymore, I'll forget it.
Yeah, okay. I'll do what you want. Bye.
Here, do you want everything I have? You can have it.
You can have it, take it, destroy it.
Show me how you I'll give you everything. Show me how you did the penny trick.
Seriously, I want to know how they made a penny disappear.
Interdimensional beings. Special powers.
I'm gonna make a penny disappear. That'd be cool. Now, when the rest of the family eventually returned, they went out with a light to examine the driveway. The only marks they found were what looked like a small caterpillar tractor tread, about 4 inches wide and 18 inches long. The driveway was so narrow, it would have been impossible for any automobile's tire to get into the center, where the marks were. They were also too deep and distant for motorcycles. Also, of course, they were too short. By morning, they were gone, although no one had used the driveway in the interval. Not long after, Hopkins began experiencing trouble with his own telephone. He often picked it up to find the line dead or filled with static, and his patients began to complain that when they called, he either didn't answer his phone or that they would get a voice falsely claiming that his number was out of service. On those occasions, when a connection was successfully made, it was often mysteriously broken in the middle of the conversation. The local phone company determined that Hopkins' line was definitely being tampered with, but were at a loss to explain how or by whom.
See, that's super weird too, because it's like, that's one of those things, like, this was like back in the day when it wasn't super easy to like tap into someone's phone line and fuck with them.
No, you had to manually do it.
Yeah. So they were either super close or they had the technology to do that.
Definitely.
But I do have one last story.
So, my last alien sighting also brings us to next week's podcast area, Brattleboro, Vermont. So, on Thursday, November 14th of 2019, so this was actually pretty recent, at approximately 7:50, 3 witnesses identified... Actually, I think that's when I was in Brattleboro, Vermont, working for Vinny. We were doing the Brattleboro Retreat, the mental hospital. So, yeah, just so happens. 3 witnesses identified a triangular unknown craft hovering 400 feet above Putney Road in the Retreat Meadows. See? At the retreat! In Brattleboro, Vermont. The sighting lasted approximately 4 minutes, and the craft changed shape from a diamond shape to an equilateral triangle. I have no idea what that is. There was a slight buzz in the air and the feeling of static charge building up, surrounding as it flew over. The craft proceeded to hover for a minute, then proceeded to slowly move in a southeasterly direction till it went out of sight.
So, did you end up seeing anything while you were out there?
We weren't out there too late on the retreat, but when we were out in the hotel, we didn't really see anything, other than the typical satellite goofing through. But I'll tell you, the retreat, like, next week's podcast, just out of control. I have so many ghostly stories from there, but I have to finish this story first.
Fine.
We're really bad at interrupting each other.
We really are.
Alright, so
Nope.
It was much too large and slow to be a conventional plane, and the sky was clear during the sighting. Minutes after, an overcast covered the sky. You could see the shape of the craft between the lights, so it wasn't drones either.
But I thought alien spaceships were supposed to be quick, not slow.
Not always. Sometimes they just want to hover and observe shit. Like, what about if they're taking a cow? Or a tractor? Or something,
They could have.
Yeah, exactly. But sadly, they did not, this is weird. How did you not get any pictures yet yourself? I mean, I didn't get any pictures when I saw the same kind of craft in 2012 when I was at AHCI. And I had a cell phone.
And you didn't take pictures of
And I
them
didn't
in
take
black.
pictures. Yeah, I didn't take, because that's weird. Can I get a picture of you? You guys look funny.
I mean, people thought you were already talking to nobody, so...
Yeah, that's true.
It wouldn't have been any funnier.
I don't know. It's wild. But for those of you that actually listen to us, stay spooky and stay tuned for next week's episode on the Brattleboro Retreat.